Every time I love that.
I'm never going to live that down, am I?
Welcome to the show, everybody. We're live coast to coast. It is 6 p.m. on the Pacific side, 9 p.m. here on the East Coast side. Shout out if you're watching, folks. Give us a shout out. We'd love to see you. I love that. I love that graphic that we put up every week. It really makes me really happy whenever I just pull it up. I look for your reaction in the camera. I can see it. And you never fail to disappoint. Your disgust never fails to disappoint.
Are you having any huge thunderstorms today, or how's that going?
Every day, which it came in like the plague, and like the end of times, and then it was out. That's what happens in Orlando. It comes in pretty quick, and then cycles out. So, Andy, we have some fun things to talk about. So, as everybody knows, that there's the TEC creative, the themed entertainment creative workshop series, and we just ended the 4-week process. Morgan was on the show to talk about it, like I guess 4 weeks ago, and you actually came in. You came into the final show and tell. Do you want to talk about that experience and how that was for you?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was so great to see so many talented and dedicated students really just going for it on their pitches. I thought the writing was all really good. A lot of the presentations were engaging and dynamic, and you know, a lot of interesting solutions to a lot of interesting problems. You know, some of the prompts were like, what? Like the log flume in space. I was just like, oh man, those poor people. You know, like did not envy them with that, and man, a lot of them delivered. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was. So the way that we did it is myself and Natalie Nielsen, who was on the show. Actually, it's always people who are on the show, right? We just devised 8 different ride systems and 8 different generic themes, and then picked them out of hats randomly. And definitely the most interesting or challenging theme, I think we would all agree, is that deep space exploration and a log flume. And they came up with quite an elaborate setup. It was super fun. I'm super proud of my team that I mentored, and I'll pull them on screen. We had a jungle theme. This was, I actually don't have like the zoom feature where you can superimpose a background in. So I just went to my backyard to do our jungle. We had a ride simulator and a jungle. It was beautiful riding. Tahara was on the team, who you guys may know from a previous episode where we talked about cultural appropriation and that. So it was great working with her. And congratulations to all the teams, and also major thanks to Adam Bezark for sponsoring the event. I will just say there's a lot of other things in the works. You obviously are going to be starting a class soon. I know it's already filled up. But if you are looking for themed entertainment, educational programs and things like that, go ahead and go to the website, check it out, sign up for their mailing list. There's all sorts of fun things that are going to be a part of that. Speaking of other content, I don't know if it actually posted.
It did.
Oh, it did? Okay. Speaking of fun, interesting content, we do have somebody waiting in the wings here. Let me just get this set up here. We have Rachel, a friend of the show, who's just sitting in now in the green room every day. We have we have another show on Friday at noon Eastern. And you're now you're producing the show. Do you want to talk a little about it?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a producer, I guess, for Patrick's other show. So you were about to graduate. Yeah. So this Friday we're going to be talking about nighttime spectaculars and theatricals with a really awesome company called Quantum. They've done like really interesting work blurring the line between theater and like technical spectacle. And so it'll be really interesting to talk to them about where they fit into the world of themed entertainment.
Right, you are. So yeah, go ahead and mark your calendars now. Friday, August 21st, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. These guys are really fun guys. Andy, do you know Quantum at all?
Nope.
So you should get to know them. They're really fun, interesting cats, and they have a lot of personality. So it's going to be a fun show. Well, thanks, Rachel. We'll throw you back into the green room, and we'll see. I'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy the snacks.
Yeah, enjoy the snacks. Andy, so we do have a couple bits of fun, bits of news. Where do you want to start? Well, actually, sorry. Let's actually bring Matt on. I apologize. Unless you have something else to say.
No.
So, folks, we are here to talk all about lighting design. It's Scrappy Lighting Design. I met Matt a couple weeks ago, and he's a really cool, fun guy. He's actually working today. Just flew in, not to Orlando, but Tampa adjacent. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, welcome. So we're gonna jump right into the news, and then we'll hear your background a bit. We know you're a theme park guy, lighting designer. We have some fun bits of news. Basically, let's go ahead and walk through this photo. What are we looking at here?
Well, that's the ospreys that nested on top of the unannounced Jurassic Park coaster at Islands of Adventure down in Orlando, where you are. And I just thought it was fun to watch the story unfold over the last week or so with at the very top of that top hat loop or hill, these pair of ospreys, which are a type of raptor, and we think that the coaster is a raptor coaster. They nested on top of the top hat there, and I don't know if somebody took the nest down or if the nest blew away or what happened, but the nest is gone. But the birds still come back and hang out, and it makes for some great fun pictures. And this is the kind of story that we need right now. Patrick, you're muted.
Exactly. This is the story we need. Matt, what's your take on the on this developing situation? They have been removed, but what's your take on this?
I do think I appreciate the social distance in the queue. I think they're setting a good example for the rest of us. So that's well done, Osprey.
There you go. Excellent.
Well, I mean, other than that, it's interesting to see Minds Chat reporting that construction has been resumed on the Adventures campus at California Adventure. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think that's good news that things are moving forward there, that they, they're not just abandoning everything and being like, who knows, everybody just forget about Disneyland.
Yeah, no, that's good news. That's positive news. So we are, we're going to take it one day at a time. We know that the TEA, THEA case studies start tomorrow. They had Nancy Serrato. We talked about that last week. So that's exciting. I'll be tuning in, and that's exciting as well. So there's some fun things happening. One other thing I did see is a couple of attraction companies came together and said that they were not going to IAAPA. Did you see that? It was like Premiere, Rides.
Yeah. I was waiting to talk about IAAPA for a couple more weeks when they make an announcement, because my money is on them announcing the cancellation of IAAPA or the moving IAAPA to online, like we did in IAAPA Asia, which I think had varying degrees of success, according to some of my friends.
Matt, what do you think about it? Well, we can talk about it later. But Matt, I mean, do you usually go to IAAPA? Or how is it for you?
Yeah, that's kind of IAAPA seems like it's part reunion and a little bit of a trade show. The reunion part's going to be hard to do virtually. That's going to be unfortunate. But was the feedback kind of mixed in on? I know the Asia thing was recently. Was some people found it successful, some not?
Yeah, I mean, some of the feedback that I've heard was that they made it like exactly like a trade show, where exactly like IAAPA, where if you're in your booth talking to somebody else, you can't see that other people are like waiting to talk to you. And it's just like, they basically, didn't, instead of like harnessing the power of the internet to like, allow you to multitask a little bit more, they're like, oh, so like when you're talking to somebody in your booth, you can't talk to anyone else. And you can't see that there's other people, so it's weird like that. I think, they need to maybe open up the technology a little bit more and have it so that you can chat with multiple people at a time, and, have a virtual waiting list that you can see of people waiting to talk to you, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, like, for me, like the whole point of going to IAAPA is the networking at the various parties and booth parties and things like that, because that's really where business gets done and where secrets are revealed.
Hats are given out.
Huh?
Hats are given out.
Yeah, hats are given out. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It's gonna suck, this year, I think, but I don't know. Depending on you know how things go down here in Los Angeles, we still have some of the highest case numbers in the world right now in Los Angeles, which is unfortunate. But like in a couple of months, 3 months, like maybe have a little pachinko party here in Burbank for our theme parky friends down here, and see what kind of social distance get together we can have, if anything at all.
Yeah, man. And if you would have told me in March that like no, something that happened in November was totally canceled, I would be like, no, we're gonna get through this. China's basically already done with this. This is just done. Don't even.
No, we screwed it up.
Well, Matt, welcome to the show. Why don't we'd love to hear a bit about your background before we dive in. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself before we talk about lighting?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of found my way into theme park world accidentally. I had worked doing lighting design in houses and AV stuff. And Andy, I apologize. I'm a recovering audio guy. I used to think I was an audio guy, and then I realized I wasn't a good audio guy, which made me a lighting guy. Anyway, I kind of stepped into the industry about 10 years ago through a project in Detroit. And it was this perfect mix of some of the architectural lighting stuff I had done and some theater stuff that I had done. And what was really cool is that this was one of the industries that still really appreciated having an actual lighting designer. And so there was a spot for me on the bus, and one project became lots. And so I've been doing it in one form or another for about the last 10 years, and have slowly been meeting different people in the industry. So other stuff about me, I live in Kentucky, which is a little odd, but it was home for me. So enjoy living in the middle of bourbon country. That can make things exciting. I was a theater kid, band kid in high school. So I got the music bug. I did lighting design stuff actually in high school. So my high school buddies wouldn't be surprised to find out that this is my full-time occupation now. But yeah, it's interesting. Some of the really stupid things that I did in high school because I didn't have a budget and I didn't have gear, but I wanted to make things as cool as, the Coldplay show or whatever. Some of that stuff actually has a place in theme park world. And I guess I've had clients with beer budgets or champagne taste and beer budgets. So that's kind of forced me to be scrappy. And so sharing some of that will be fun.
Cool deal. Well, it's nice to have you on the show. Lighting design is another one of my things where I feel like it's one of those things where you don't notice it until it's not good. And then you're like, what is going on in this room? Like what has happened here? Well, yeah, why don't you talk us through what you have. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So let me, let's see. Let's get the screen share going here.
You can go full screen and I can pull it up because I already have it on my end.
Got it.
So here we go. It's got to get it. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Cool. Take it away.
So this is me. This is a project that finished up recently out in Branson, Missouri. So it was a water ride. One of the things that I have found folks coming back to recently is there's an attraction that has a ride element, and there's this desire to really elevate the theming. And if a lot of parks or some of these regional parks are starting to operate more at night, and so the nighttime experience needs to be one, great, but two, maybe offer something that the daytime experience doesn't. So this was a cool project. We had the opportunity to add some creative elements that supported the theming, but made things a bit more playful in the evening. And there's a couple of cool little tricks. It was, we had some vintage fixtures that were really important to be consistent with the theming through the project. And we ran into some infrastructure issues. So we actually went to an LED option, and I'll show you some pictures of that here in a little bit. I'm also the pumpkin guy. So if there's anything I know how to do, it's light a gourd. So fiberglass, plastic, foam, real pumpkins. That's kind of for the last several falls, that's kept me really busy. So this is another project where we decided to make a tower of pumpkins. And then the park had some structures that were actually really cool, but had never been illuminated. And so applying some excitement there, activated those structures. Of course, that was a pretty inexpensive thing to do to make the park come alive. And now that's a feature they can use year round in different seasons. So pumpkins, you'll notice a theme. More pumpkins. This was really cool. Everything I've done with a pumpkin before, like a display you throw in the front of your house or a walkthrough experience at a park, it's always been kind of like a flicker bulb inside, or maybe a candle. And so on this project, we decided to bend the rules a little bit and introduce some color and some movement. So instead of using a kind of a boring tungsten light, we're able to do some color stuff and animate some sculpts, and that was really fun. More of the same kind of thing. Who knew you could make quilts out of pumpkins?
Wow.
But that's kind of fun. Gobos on the ground, that's a favorite trick of mine. Seems to always get guests excited because they can walk through it, and it kind of breaks that that wall between the environment and the guests. So that's a fun thing to throw in. This was an aquarium project, really tricky space, kind of half curved. So trying to squeeze a sculpt in the air and find an angle to light it from, it was kind of a lighting designer's nightmare. And we were able to find some locations and tuck some fixtures on a wall and kind of make it come to life. So I was really excited to see that one finish. Park stuff is really fun. I think there are a lot of parks, there are a lot of family entertainment centers that have a lot of space, they have cool theming, but it's not really activated. And so applying a level of kind of illumination over top, if you can figure out how to fit it in the budget, can really bring things to life. And that nighttime experience now can have some dynamics. So seeing some of the regional guys begin to step into that's been really, really cool.
Yeah, that looks like Silver Dollar City, which is one of my favorite parks.
Yeah, that is a great park. In that pursuit, so in trying to take parks that weren't really designed to operate at night, they weren't designed ahead of time with any consideration for centralized control. These are some images of my adventures and the lack of infrastructure, which is the less glorious side of lighting design. Conduits, Andy, I'm sure you've probably encountered a few in your career. Some labeled better than others, some with pull string. So that becomes really exciting for lighting designers. Weatherproof boxes, that's been something I've become an expert in over the last several years. Just because they say they're weatherproof doesn't mean that water won't get in. But trying to adapt, just like in audio world, trying to take these devices that were never intended to be outside and find ways of hiding them without, kind of breaking the theme, but keep the functionality up. Oftentimes there's a perfect place to locate a lighting fixture or a piece of control gear, and I don't get to put it there because there's a piece of concrete or we can't get connectivity. So adaptability is also an important skill. Some electronics fun. Always feels like what is supposed to work doesn't at the last minute. So somebody has to pull out some electronics on a workbench. Fun stuff with connectors and water. That's what happens to an RJ45 connector when it gets hit with a rainstorm. So
Gotcha.
didn't do so great on the connectivity there. So some lighting hacks. If you guys want to jump in, I've got a few clever solutions that if you were throwing a Halloween haunt this year, might be some great low-hanging fruit. So
cool.
Stanley McCandless is kind of the godfather, if you will, of lighting design. And this is an overview of the McCandless theory. And so all lighting designers really operate from McCandless theory and then break the rules when necessary. So anyway, little refresher on McCandless. Beam distribution or beam angle becomes really important in what we do. So some fixtures aren't natively designed to give us the spread we need, so we need to modify those. So a couple of reference images there. And my three favorite tools in the super scrappy lighting design world. On the left is a screw-in par base, and these are like on Amazon. I looked up today. I think they're like $6. So you can take a par bulb and screw it in. Has an Edison connector on the other side. Has like a stake that's integrated. You would be amazed what you can pull off with par bulbs and throwing a little gel on the front, or you can actually get like LED par bulbs now that are different colors. So that's my tried and true method of lighting my house for Halloween. It's super cheap. I already had the gear, and it looks great, and you get a lot of output for the money too. So that's a good trick. Pie tins. So I don't know. Have either of you guys any guesses at what a pie tin could do?
Reflector, maybe.
Yeah, good one. So gobos are that texture that I talked about. That's one of the tricks that I like to use. Introducing texture, especially if we're washing a surface with color, and then we can drop texture on top. That can be a nice effect to kind of add to the richness of a structure. And so the proper way is to buy a steel gobo from a reputable manufacturer and use a reputable lighting fixture that is intended for such a purpose. But in the Scrappy version, you can make your own with an X-Acto knife. And you can place it on the front of a fixture. This is something I did in high school a ton. Your mileage may vary. It's not as good as the real thing, but it's a lot cheaper. So from time to time, it works pretty well.
Is that what you had to do at Silver Dollar City?
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that?
Yeah, there are a few pie tins. Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's on theme though. It's the rustic.
I mean, that's on brand for Silver Dollar City. or like certainly Knott's Berry Farm. I could see them demanding pie tin gobos.
Maybe it should be marketed as more authentic, right? So wax paper, another great tool. I will never admit to using it on a legitimate project, but it does great things for diffusing light. So in those beam angles, when something's a lighting fixture is natively very narrow, which most of the let's not say cheap, but the lighting fixtures that are easy to buy on Amazon tend to be a really LED RGB fixtures. They tend to be a really narrow beam angle. So if you got $20, diffusion's nice. That's a legitimate theatrical solution to solving that problem. But if you don't have legitimate solutions, wax paper will do just fine. Probably wouldn't use it for a whole season, but it'll get you through a night.
Do you put layers on? Can you layer it, or is it really just one layer is good? Or
one gets you pretty far. You can try to. Stacking diffusions like that's cool. But wax paper is so dense and like not transmissive to begin with that, one will do you just fine.
How do you keep it from melting?
Well, that's the fun part.
You can't. No.
Right.
Well, as it melts, the diffusion takes on an interesting character, and it
does. It's the first form of a moving light. Yeah, that adds to the dynamics. On an LED fixture that's pretty low heat to begin with, but yeah, on an old school power bulb, that's part of the fun is how long will your diffusion last. So,
yay!
Yeah. Hey, Scrappy also means fun, right?
Yeah.
So a few other fun things to look at. This was a project that had a really elaborate lighting fixture. We tried to source it. There was one shop in the UAE that was manufacturing the fixture, and it was kind of a tale of like all the things that are wrong with architectural lighting. Sourcing that stuff is really hard. There's people love to manipulate part numbers and to kind of protect their buddy so that their buddy gets a better price than you do. And anyway, long and short of it, after 3 months, we really couldn't get anyone to answer the phone. So we kind of scrapped the original spec. And there are a couple of companies that make like lamp parts. So this is, if you look through their catalog, it's like if your grandmother had a lamp with a linen shade and a part broke and you needed to replace it. This would be the kind of place you would go to. But they also have these like really interesting brass fittings and A-base lamp bulbs and plastic globes. So by looking through several of those like lamp supply vendors and a place that sells zip cord inside of rope, there's a guy on Etsy, believe it or not, and I guess he'll unravel a rope and fish a cable through and then ravel it back up again, sells it by the foot. So between those two things, we're able to create really a custom lighting fixture that hit the designer's intent, but it was something that we could get and it fit within the budget. So off-the-shelf parts can equal a custom fixture and you can do some neat stuff.
That's great. I love it.
Low voltage landscape lights, that's also a great tool in the inventory. Whether they're conventional like the MR16 bulb or it's something like this that's integrated LED, Home Depot, Lowe's, big box stores, 30 to 50 bucks a fixture. They're fantastic for lighting signage. So in a lot of the evening events, we spend a lot of attention on the cool creative stuff for obvious reason. And then at the very end of the project, you go, oh, wait, there's some wayfinding, there's some food and beverage signs that need to be illuminated. And the tendency is to overdo that stuff. And when you do, you really, you start manipulating the whole palette and you can very well, more than a few times, I've seen a food and beverage sign that really can kind of spoil the whole experience. It's great that I know that there's a cinnamon roll over there and I'd really like to have the cinnamon roll, but having that in proper balance in terms of intensity with the rest of the event is really important. Landscape lights are super easy way to do that. They don't take a lot of money in the budget. They're pretty dumb. You can distribute that low voltage power really easily. So they're a great tool in the arsenal and it's always great to have a couple laying around.
So what do you mean by low voltage? Do you mean like less than 120?
Yeah, so like 24 volt. So somewhere in the system, you've got a transformer that's taking 120 and spitting out constant 24 volt and, you know, just hot negative. And so you can run it around with zip cord, really easy to tack and hide, easy to even surface mount along buildings. And then, yeah, the lights are, they're not smart. They're not intelligent. They come on when the transformer's on. They go off when the transformer's off. But a lot of times the output on those better matches what's going on with an event than a high voltage kind of floodlight fixture. So
what this reminds me of is like I have my across the street neighbor is my friend. He's actually an art director for WDI, and he looked at my house and he's like, you need to put some lighting on your house. It looks absolutely ridiculous at night, like completely dark. And so I went and got like some color changing. He hates color changing LEDs. And they are like activated by the they're solar powered, and it's like a nightmare for him. But I love your take on it. Maybe I could run outside right now and show you. No, I have like two separate ones. They're not in sync. They just put wash color all over the house, and it looks really tacky. Their house is like professionally done. So I enjoy that.
Yeah, I think I've been to a few parks with some solar powered lights. And, yeah, that's good job security in the current climate. So yeah, a few more interesting things. So beam shaping, it's another thing that lighting designers love to talk about. It's another accessory that we can add to a lighting fixture on a budget that just continues to escalate the price of the project, and then we can be resigned and irritated when the budget gets cut and we have to eliminate the finer things in life like beam shaping. So that was kind of the story of this project, and was able to work with one of the fabbing guys to just take a piece of aluminum and bend it to make a beam shaper. So we had a fixture that was really throwing too much light and we needed to chop that off. So it would be just kind of knee level and below. That fixture was used for kind of pathway illumination. So yeah, like literally less than $5 and a guy with a sheet metal bender or a sheet metal brake, use a brake to bend metal. That's right. Had no idea, but it worked out great. little rattle can job on the top. So who says you have to have fancy accessories? We can do beam shaping with cheap aluminum. And on the right side, this is really scraping the bottom of the barrel. So I know at some parks with mice involved, great care is given to conceal all of our fancy AV technology and to build vaults and pneumatic lifts and that sort of thing. But for those with more of a beer budget, corrugated irrigation pipe works just great. So behind that piece of that sliver of irrigation pipe is a lighting fixture. And when mulch fills in at the very end, right before this project opened, there was a crew that went through and dropped a bunch of pine straw. After the pine straw went down, you could barely notice the light. So we got credit for concealing lighting fixtures, but didn't spend a fortune. So that was awesome. This was a cool project. This conduit in the junction box there really developed out of an infrastructure need. We had to run conduit. This was in a big tunnel of rock work. There was no other way. Conduit had to happen. Really great creative director came up with the idea, well, let's theme it out. We'll make this part of the story and kind of integrate it into what happened. That created an opportunity to create a mounting location for lighting fixtures, just trying to leverage even, I wouldn't say a mistake, but even an unfortunate development in the theming of a project. I think with creative folks, we can make lemonade.
Absolutely.
And this is the same idea here. So this jelly jar light, it's really, technically it's called a vapor barrier light, but you'll find it a lot in kind of industrial manufacturing. They're designed to be NEMA 7 or 8, whatever the bomb proof essentially NEMA rating is. On this project, it was a stylistic choice. It was to make this rock work look like a mine. And so rather than putting a conventional fixture inside, we dropped in a little micro RGB fixture. So that allowed us to do a flickering flame kind of thing during normal operation. And when an interactive got triggered, we could make it kind of look like a submarine going into to dive mode. So finding cool ways of concealing lighting and in theming and thinking outside the box, that's really fun and doesn't really take a lot of money, but can make a huge impact with the guest.
Yeah, I love those kinds of lights. I used to have a loft downtown, and I had some lights like that in there, and it's it's a really nice touch.
And last one, I call this vintage LED. So there's a really cool company actually out Andy's way, W.T. Kirkman Lanterns. And from my understanding, they hold, I guess, patents on the original oil lantern. So kind of the premier and perhaps only U.S. manufacturer of oil lanterns. So you can buy them with an oil wick, or they sell some electrified versions. So we used a variety of their fixtures on a project that was a thematic decision, but ran into infrastructure challenges. Really couldn't afford the cost of the high voltage version. UL ratings became a thing. The power infrastructure, there was some heavy rock at the site, so that limited the degree to which we were able to use conduit paths. And so we kind of came up with this idea, what if we took an LED source and dropped it in the middle of this vintage lighting fixture? It made the solution natively low voltage. So it was a whole, everything was 24 volts, but it was actually an intelligent chip or an intelligent IC. So it was DMX controlled. So control system, we could gain individual control of every lantern. We could make a lantern flicker if we wanted to. So I was really excited to see this solution came together. It was, we were kind of backed into a corner, and it was a way of using technology in this case to be creative and make something, use really new components to make something look old and like it had been hanging for 100 years.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and the
That's
fact
just a few things.
and the fact that they're DMX controllable too individually. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah. So back to this, the regional park that's beginning to explore nighttime operations, or they're adding an event, and the event's going to happen after their normal closing time. There's a huge deficiency in infrastructure, both on the connectivity side and in terms of how you control all the light fixtures. So DMX is kind of the standard language that color changing or moving headlights listen to. A lot of DMXs, or we have some strategies now to distribute DMX on an IP backbone or an IT backbone, so over network cable. So there's, if you think about parks, we've probably figured out how to get IT moving around a park because that's really integrated into point of sale. We definitely want to be able to sell merchandise and food and bev and special tickets. So there's probably some degree of an IT infrastructure. And so there's some savvy strategy to leverage that infrastructure. It's just like Dante in your world, Andy, and deliver our little geeky AV signals over packets. That opens up a world of possibilities for a park that was never intended to have any degree of central control or any degree of connectivity between different worlds or different lands. That all of a sudden we get the opportunity to link stuff together. So that's been a lot of what I've done for some regional parks here the last few years, especially when they're in the midst of developing an event, and we can leverage some of the events budget to give them a solution that they can use in the spring, in the summer. So yeah, it's been really fun. Lots of challenges, but really fun.
That's really cool. And and with the advent of all these RGB LED fixtures, you can change the color scheme, seasonally, like you said, like winter color scheme and fall color scheme, things like that. That's
yeah, cool. The flexibility, once you make the capital investment in a fixture, you can get more than just that one event's use out of it. And if we can tackle that control piece too, then we can kick from your fall or Halloween season into Christmas, really with the push of a button, by changing scene settings. Now, if our friends in the decor department could do the same thing, they'd be really happy. But yeah, so there's a lot of central control is a really big thing. There were some neat white papers that a couple of different vendors wrote about. I think some of the early work in some of the Disney parks. And I think our industry was really on the front end of figuring out how to take different groups of fixtures that were never really intended to play nicely with each other and link those together with astronomical clock-based control. So yeah, I think those who went before us were pioneers, and now we get a great opportunity to figure out how to leverage that in parks that were never intended to do so.
Nice. Well, we have a couple comments. Kenneth, Matt, we should talk sometime. I currently work for a company that makes military lighting.
Oh.
So we have some, here's a good question from Rachel. Patrick talked about washing his house and color changing LEDs to make his lighting neighbor cringe. What are some other absolute don'ts that I should stop doing? That's a good question.
So we should take a moment and talk about color temperature, because this is the great offender of lighting designers all over the world. So when I first met my wife, we were having dinner over her townhouse, and she had a little laundry room off the kitchen, and there was a little surface mount fixture, and it had two light bulbs inside. And one light bulb was a really high color temperature, like 7,000 Kelvin. That's like that almost blue kind of color. And then the other light bulb was a conventional, probably had been there since the house was built, tungsten light bulb, like 2,700 Kelvin, super warm, super amber. The two next to each other was the most egregious offense in the eyes of a lighting designer. So I had to correct the problem. That's probably, that would be one of my pet peeves. All color temperatures have a place in the world. There's a place for daylight. There's a place for tungsten. There is no necessarily right or wrong answer. They each have their place. but the unintentional mixing of the two is like nails on a chalkboard for a lighting designer. So we should avoid that at all costs. So, Patrick, if you're working on your house, if you've got the daylight stuff, then definitely don't mix in like an MR16 light bulb that you found laying around. That would be in the bad category.
Matt, I have to tell you, that is one of my huge pet peeves too. And I'm not anywhere close to a lighting designer, but like, it drives me up the wall. Like, there's some current abuses of that in my house that yet to be rectified. But whenever I go anywhere, especially like, to like any kind of like a restaurant or something like that, or like, where there's just a mix of stuff because nobody's buying the right bulbs or consistency or anything like that, it drives me insane.
I can't stand when there's a fan right above a light or right below a light, and so it's like a blinking effect when you're trying to like eat your dinner. I'm not sure if anybody's seeing that. That is frustrating. So
I agree with this laser comment 100%.
Measles.
We're among friends, I think, right? Can we agree that taking one light and shining it on your house and it spins little stars and dots, that doesn't count as holiday lighting? Like, there's no effort, there's no creativity. Like, I can appreciate the cliche and tacky plastic. I can appreciate mixing themes. I mean, at least there's some attempt and intentionality. But yeah, I have a neighbor who does the same thing, and it doesn't count. Sorry.
I think
if you do that for Halloween too, it doubly doesn't count.
I think the only exception for that rule, which I generally agree with, would be the maximalism version of that, where somebody has like 20 of those, and it just turns their house into this glitter phantasmagorica, like, like hard, impossible to discern shapes kind of thing. I've seen that before, where like, okay, like a for effort on that, because now it's become an art installation, not just like, oh, it's the holidays, I'm going to turn on the green and red lasers.
Yeah, we can give points for scale. I think if you correctly apply scale, you win.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a lighting designer, or on the show representing lighting designers everywhere, I would be remiss. I should clarify: lasers are completely cool and absolutely acceptable and should be used more on every occasion, just not the measly bliss light Christmas laser.
So we have some questions that are rolling in to the expert. I've been trying to find individual needs for the specific wavelength for color mixing. Blah, blah, blah. Matt, do you have a resource to companies?
So diodes are interesting. This is going to turn into snooty lighting designer, so we can throw the Scrappy show tile out. So there are only so many factories that manufacture diodes, red, green, blue. Different manufacturers are playing with lime and amber and trying to develop different combinations of diodes that will result in more effective or more accurate color mixing. The net of it is you can spend as little or as much as you want to on a diode, just like you can spend as little or as much as you want to on the IC, the chip, to control quality. So the more you spend, the more accurate the color is. And there's this, most manufacturers of theatrical fixtures being the kind of category that's going to care more about color mixing, there's a process called binning. So they'll take a batch of diodes and they'll basically look through what's coming off or coming from the factory and try to group like runs together, or diodes that have the least amount of variance. They'll put them in the same bin together, so binning. So there are lots of tools that manufacturers will use to try to increase the accuracy of color mixing, and that's rooted in the accuracy of the diodes. So the answer, find a reputable factory. We're probably not going to find them on Alibaba, but you just pay for a higher grade of diode.
There you go. You heard. This is why people come to the show, for the quality content. We appreciate that. So maybe to wrap things up, we had a comment come in that was about their favorite, or lighting design at Galaxy's Edge was so incredible. It really brought the world to life. are there any other lighting projects, or like, is there any specific themed entertainment where you're like, wow, drop dead, amazing, that you have? Maybe we can all share one, but Matt, please share a few if you have them.
Yeah, so I last year at IAPA, I got to see Universal's Harry Potter experience, and their evening projection mapping and light show was just fantastic. I like cheered at the end, and I let out like an audible words of affection. It was so tasteful and restrained, and there were all kinds of tricks and all kinds of candy, but those were withheld till the very, very, very end of the experience. So just the restraint and the artistry that was applied in that design was just exceptional. So that's one of the best things I've seen recently. I'd also point to, like, outside of themed entertainment world, there's a designer who lives in LA. His name's Leroy Bennett. Does really cool stuff. Lady Gaga, trying to think, did one of the Super Bowls. Leroy is 9 Inch Nails. That's a big one. Brilliant, super creative, finds really cool ways of taking normal stuff and applying it, and transforming it into something totally different. So his work is definitely something to follow.
Cool. And Andy, do you have any projects that come to mind about amazing lighting design that inspire you?
I have to say, what you said about the nighttime show at Hogsmeade, the audio design on that was similarly nuanced and really, really special. I know that they recorded the orchestra in such a way that there were instrument groups in different parts and different speakers. It wasn't just here's the stereo or mono mix or whatever. It was like really delicately nuanced in terms of the mix. But a lighting design, let me think. I've always loved the lighting design of Main Street at Disneyland. Mainly because it's funny. I remember the two versions of nighttime at Disneyland, before they put up the parade fixtures and after they put up the parade fixtures. Because now they use the parade fixtures. There are these things that just stand up at night and come down during the day. Now they use them to light Main Street every night, regardless of whether there's a parade or not. But I used to love just how warm and natural it was with just the practical lighting, the street lights, the popcorn bulbs, and the sign lighting, and and that was it. It was just this warm glow that you could see from almost anywhere in the park. You see the warm glow coming out of that Main Street. And but now they've got the big giant lighting fixtures with the pink and the orange and yellow and everything. Now got washing all these different kinds of colors onto the sides of the buildings. And I don't know, I kind of like just like the practical lighting of Main Street.
Excellent. Well, I think my first experience with lighting, like pretty impactful lighting design, was actually at Tokyo Disney Sea. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that project at all, but I was just blown away by it. I went there many years ago, and just Mysterious Island specifically, like this, it's just stupidly gorgeous and pretty. Every part of this land is just fascinating, and you walk around every corner, and at night it transforms into this cool air. I can't speak as intelligently as you about this, Matt. I just think it looks really cool.
It does look really, really cool.
So that's my favorite. Tokyo Disney is obviously amazing. If anybody else wants to chime in the chat with their favorite lighting design experiences, please do. We'll wrap things up with one final question from Rachel, who is just hanging out in the green room. If we're not in the lighting design, do you have any recommendations of resources, books, websites, blogs for us to learn more?
Yeah. So, well, the internet's a great place to look. Stanley McCandless is really the father of modern lighting design. He was a professor at Yale, I believe, and really everybody from movie folks to guys shooting videos, to theater and shows, to what we do in themed entertainment world is really all rooted in McCandless theory or the work of Stanley McCandless. So that's a great place to start. There's some really neat tools that you can play with even inside of something like SketchUp. So if you're working on rendering, or you're maybe a theme or a concept designer, and you want to see what lighting will do or how it could transform something you're working on, some of the lighting tools in SketchUp or one of the add-ons can be really helpful. And yeah, there's several great books. One of the best is actually written on moving light technology. I think it's the automated lighting. Well, I'll send you a link, Patrick.
Okay.
It contains some great information about as fixtures have evolved and gotten more sophisticated, kind of breaks down the insides and groups lighting fixtures in different categories. So kind of understanding the tools is really important. I think the most important for what we do in themed entertainment world is to understand how to apply lighting. So whether it's a super scrappy project and lighting up my house for Halloween and using $50 of stuff from Amazon, those same principles work just the same way they do with $5,000 lighting fixtures and $1 million lighting budgets. That's one of the things I love about what we get to do. At the end of the day, if the guest is impressed, we win. If they're not, then we lose. And it doesn't really matter which set of tools we use to get there. It's really our creativity and our ability to apply those tools that matters. So
I think that's really good advice in general for themed entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe we should have we should maybe do a series on lighting and sound decor for Halloween home haunts display in the next month or two. That could maybe have you back on for that.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
To what you can do with a couple $100.
Maybe we should make a challenge, and you can spend no more than $200, and you have to light up your work from home environment or something like that.
That's fun.
Well, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people walking around on Halloween, because you're not going to be going to Halloween parties perhaps as much as you might, and it's certainly not the theme parks in the way that you used to. I have a feeling Halloween home haunts are going to be big this year, home yard displays.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think that's a great tease for the next coming months of where to go from here. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure. You were very informative. I was sitting here like, okay, cool, that's cool. So appreciate the case studies. It wasn't just us rambling on about nonsense. Appreciate your perspective. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out? What's the best way?
I am Matt E. Cooper on Instagram. The company is Spark, SPRK. So we're SPRK Lighting, ing.com. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn too, Matt E. Cooper.
Cool deal.
Thanks.
Well,
Great.
Andy, any parting thoughts before we head out?
Yeah, I just can't stop thinking about how much I hate the multicolored fixtures, unintentional multicolored fixtures. Like, yeah, man, I hate that so much. So you mentioned that, I'm like, yeah.
I knew we were friends, Andy. I knew we were friends.
No, thank you so much. It was really great.
All right. Well, we'll be back next Monday. Just a reminder, folks, I'm the crew. The So You're About to Graduate College crew is going to be talking to Quantum Creative Studios Friday, August 21st. 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You might be wondering how to watch this. I'll update the link in this so you can find it, but you can go to Facebook or YouTube. It's the same YouTube channel you're watching right now. Mark your calendars. Real Patrick Kling is the YouTube channel. Love to have you guys watch. We did a run through today. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So thanks for your support, everybody. And as always, if you like the show, share it with your friends. We love having a little community get together on Monday nights. That's what we do. We'll be back Monday. We have some interesting topics for next week, and a lot of people are lining up wanting to come on the show. So we'll be here. We're not going anywhere, folks. Bye for now. No, I'm going to really end the show now. Bye.